A very warm welcome to the distinguished members of the legal fraternity, family, extended family, and friends on this memorable occasion of the book launch of Mundane and More, From Memory by Mr. VR Reddy. This event is a result of arduous work rendered with passion by the author. Through a unique, informal narrative, he has effectively captured his extraordinary journey from rustic Rajampet to the highest court of the land, that too being a first-generation lawyer. When I was entrusted this onerous task of being the Sutradhar for this evening, I was honored and simply terrified because I have to measure up to the oratorial skills of the many legal luminaries sitting over here. Without much ado, let's start the evening rolling. May I request everyone to keep your phones on silent mode. May I request the chief guest for the evening, Justice Jagannatha Rao Garu, to grace the dais. May I request Dr. VR Reddy Garu to grace the dais. Justice P.S. Narasimha, Mr. K.T.S. Tulsi, Justice C.V. Nagarjuna Reddy, Professor Dr. V. Vijayakumar, Mr. Vikramjit Banerjee, Dr. Nandini Rao, and the author, Mr. V.R. Reddy. When the author started this endeavor a few years ago, he requested my help to transcribe his thoughts and his notes into a manuscript. I promptly reported to his chambers and had my computer ready for transcribing whatever he had to say. Little did I realize that I was getting into a position where it would be a weird surprise. He had a long pad and a pen ready for me to take notes literally by hand. Many years he's been used to dictating to his juniors and stenographers, so he had a problem with the digital interface. Well, over a couple of cups of green tea, I convinced him otherwise. And then he settled for me with an iPad because it's not right in the face. He's kind of put it on your lap and you can type it out. As I was clicking away, I was amazed at his didactic memory. On recounting the minutest details of his early days, and being much younger, I have at best a fuzzy memory of any of the things that happened that many years ago. What is manifest from his narrative is the author's remarkable talent to collate and weave information, not necessarily chronological or contextual, but it becomes a good pattern. For many years, I have heard innumerable anecdotes from many of his juniors present over here that he is always very subtle in the way he operates. He only does it by suggestive hints. This subtlety is displayed in good measure throughout his memoir. His humility is quite evident in the manner in which he recounted the immense contribution he has made to the legal profession. He recognizes the role of his juniors who worked with him, and I quote, "If I have acquitted myself well to the satisfaction of my clients, and more importantly, to my own satisfaction, it is undoubtedly because of the able assistance I had from my juniors, who worked with commitment and competence. The implicit faith and trust he had in his juniors, treating them as his confidants, is reflected from the words of the author dealing with selection of candidates for appointment of government pleaders. I counted on my juniors, particularly Nagarjun, Devraj, and Nirup to help me since I was not familiar with many of the younger section of the bar. On completion of the manuscript, the efficient and professional editorial team of Orient Black Swan, headed by Nilanjana, meticulously went through it and over numerous mail exchanges between the author and the editorial team, working through 2 pandemic lockdowns, arrived at the final product. I now request the author to present his welcome address.
Dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, frankly speaking, I never could believe that I would be able to complete the arduous task of penning my memoir and hold a book in my hands one day. And so, this book launch event is something surreal to me. The icing on the cake is the unique honor of having distinguished individuals who are associated with me at different stages of my life and career as chief guest and guests of honor. Justice Jagannatha Rao and I had known each other from our school days. Venu, Dr. Y.V. Reddy, and I attended school together. And he has always been Thambi to me and I Rajanna to him. KTS Tulsi and I were together in the team of law officers as ASGs when I moved to Delhi to practice in the Supreme Court. I can never forget the kind of hospitality my wife and I used to enjoy at his place. And we are delighted to have Mrs. Suman Tulsi here with us. Yeah. Moving to the next stage, we have accomplished lawyers who worked with me as juniors. Prominently, we have my Lord Justice Narasimha, who worked with me during the entire 20 years of my practice in Delhi. Next, closer home, one who worked with me during my foundational years of practice in Hyderabad is Justice Nagarjun Reddy. Yet another is Nirup Reddy, who worked with me here and by his recent designation as senior advocate has done us proud. Okay. Professor Vijay Kumar was a prominent member of the faculty of National Law School of India, University, Bangalore at its inception. We worked together in establishing this prestigious institution. We have, and presently he is the Vice Chancellor of the Law School in Bhopal. And we have a product of that university, Mr. Vikramjit Banerjee, who worked with me in Delhi and is presently a senior Additional Solicitor General of India in the Supreme Court. Yet another, there were 2 others who imbued my office in Delhi with the intellect of Bengal. One is the Chaudhary, Sakya Singha Chaudhary, and the other is Krishnayan Sen, the master motivator who spurred me to put pen to paper in writing this memoir. Friends, if one is impressed by the final shape of the book, the credit should go entirely to the publishers, Orient Black Swan, and we are fortunate to have Ms. Nandini Rao, director, with us. I welcome each one of them and you all who are here, ignoring all inhibitions, most heartily. I now leave it to Mr. Shyam Gopal, the Master of Ceremonies, to steer the proceedings further. Thank you all.
I now request the chief guests of this evening and the guests of honor to release the book, Mundane and More, from memory. Give me a copy of the book. We have the pleasure with us in our company today, Mr. GVK Reddy and Mr. Surendra Reddy. We are extremely happy to have you here, sirs. Part of the family, extended family. You've been there for many years, along with my father-in-law. As the first grandchild of the author, and as the grandchild who is the most regular to keep in touch with the author through his favorite mode of communication, email, she speaks on behalf of all the other grandchildren to whom the book is dedicated to. An alum of Brown University, a budding investment banker, and an excellent writer herself, ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Nithya Velkacharla.
Dedications are undoubtedly an extraordinary honor, and on behalf of all of us grandchildren, I would like to say that we are thankful beyond words for the honor, the memories and wisdoms that this marvelous book offers, and above all for the voice, the timeless voice that houses all of these memories and wisdoms. As many of you know, the author's voice is one of very few that truly draws ears. Each word of his carries weight and intent, rid of any judgment, in a way that inspires listeners in their own pursuits. All of us grandchildren have often found ourselves sat across from him in his renowned study room chair, jotting down notes as we discuss potential college course selections, extracurricular endeavors, and book recommendations that he so carefully chooses to offer up. It is in these small instances of reconnection that we have often found clarity and mentorship, as well as a well-seasoned "Oh Jesus" joke. Wisdom comes in all forms when your grandfather is as multi-talented as ours is. Across the fields of cricket, tennis, dance, literature, film, food, among others, we have often found pockets of shared interests through which these bonds have formed and insights are passed. Reading and writing have been particularly central in my exchanges with the author, most of which have taken place over email, a critical medium for those separated by countries and continents. The emails became an outlet through which I developed a passion for creative writing and also learned about my grandfather, his life, his experiences, and his values. And in my final year of college, a few of these emails would even inspire a collection of my own stories, written for an undergraduate thesis project, a collection I hope to one day refine and publish, just as Tata hoped for Mundane and More from memory. The memoir we have gathered to recognize and celebrate today offers a glimpse into the reflections, learnings, and memories of a revered lawyer, wise intellectual, and loving son, brother, husband, father, and grandfather. Of course, all of which would not be possible without the wonderful heart and strength of my Nainama, Radha Reddy. Reading about our familial culture and history, as well as the strands of DNA that make us all who we are today, has been an invaluable experience, especially when peppered with delightful wit and comical interludes. From the Kacha roads of Anasamudram to the BTR villa where we stay today, there's so much learned through the author's voice. about what came before our time, as well as during our time, in both personal and professional domains, but also about what remains timeless, the learnings, reflections, and memories of which the author will always remain a custodian. These do not have a best before date. In a recent email to my grandfather, after the book was published and available in its complete physical form, I posed a question to him. How does it feel to hold the thing in your hands, I asked. And it brought to mind a thought from Namwali Serpal, who's a great Zambian writer and professor now at Harvard University. She had visited a class of mine in college and mentioned during her talk that after a book or any piece of creative work is published or released, it's not only yours. The reader becomes a stakeholder in this work, interpreting it as they might in their varied ways and informed by their unique perspectives. The book finds a new home, a new meaning in another's hands. And this stuck with me as a beautiful sentiment about how creativity's power, how the power of words is really boundless. Now, in response to my question, the author promptly replied with the following. Now, coming to your query, how it feels to hold the book in hand, I can only answer metaphorically. I don't know if this is the correct expression, but saying it might be close to holding your first child. With this, I would like to introduce Megha Velikacharla, a budding scientist, avid reader, and a compassionate individual who might be better known as the author's most favorite idli-eating buddy. A student at the University of California, Los Angeles, Megha joins us to share a small glimpse at the author's newborn child and hopes you all might find some peace and meaning in these vibrant words, just as we did. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. VR Reddy's youngest grandchild, Megha Velikacharla.
Thank you, Akka, for the introduction. I would like to share a small excerpt from the text, an email from the author to Nithya that addresses her feelings of leaving for college. It is in this email that many are able to witness the author's encouraging and wise voice. Nithya, dearest, I'm glad you could open out to me. Good to do that to the ones you believe in, whether you benefit by their response and advice or not. It helps in making you identify thoughts and anxieties troubling you, making it easier in meeting them with gusto as you move forward. You tried to extract info on my childhood, possibly for making a biopic in your mind of my life at that time. Well, my childhood was so uneventful that it may not be worthwhile to recount the same. Not complaining, though. No dearth of care, concern, and love from parents. Just that the times were so different that it would be difficult for you guys to relate and view in proper perspective. Coming to your anxiety about leaving home, would say it's only natural. It's only a reflection of the blessings of a very happy childhood you have had. You can't have it for all time, since it will be going against evolution, which is the order of nature. Might interest you to know that parent eagles are known to destroy their nest once the eaglets are learned to fly and pick their prey. Their mindset is obviously predetermined to facilitate evolutionary process. That said, remember that the loss of your company will be felt equally by your loving family. Whenever you try to draw upon frozen pictures of a happy family soaked in love to pep up your mood. I know you are far too bright and mature to have such issues. Start telling your mind that you are going to like it and make the best of it from now on. I think we can all agree that this recount and the memoir in its entirety, contrary to the author's words, are more than worthwhile. Thank you, Raj Tata, for this wonderful honor.
Thank you, Nithya and Megha, for your warm and loving words. He needs no introduction. A well-known economist, Padma Vibhushan awardee, and former governor of Reserve Bank of India, Dr. Y.V. Reddy, or Venu Chinnana for us, has played a key role over many years in many positions in contributing to India's economic growth. An affectionate younger brother to the author, his spontaneous wit is well known. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Y.V. Reddy.
I've just witnessed how my elder brother takes care of me. Always. chief guest, respected chief guest, Justice Jagannath Rao Garu, distinguished guests of honor. I think I'm too short for this mic. Author VR Reddy Garu, Rajanna for me, family and friends. I think I know VR Reddy or Rajanna far longer than anybody here, except perhaps Pravataka. I think there is nobody who knows him for longer than I do. And we have been quite close and intimate from childhood. So, I have to resist the temptation of talking about the author. To make it brief, I will say a few words about the book. The book is unique. I say this with great affection and respect. I will mention only a few reasons why I consider this book to be unique. It depicts family ties over 4 generations, 5 in fact. You have seen the way he relates to his grandchildren. I also was a witness to the way he was related to grandparents, but all this is the way he is reflected in the way in which he describes these relationships in his book. It is a fast-changing modern world, but yet he has been able to nurture and maintain close family ties, which are explained very nicely in this book. It shows the manner, in fact the book shows the manner in which work and family life can be balanced, whatever be the professional demands. It also explains the interface between government, business, politics and judiciary. You will find various roles played by him as a bridge between these different types of conflicting interests. It calls for integrity, intelligence and diplomacy. And you find these very nicely explained in the book. The book explains the enormous effort needed to bring about fundamental changes in legal education system. And also, Rajanna's leadership qualities are in full display when he describes the way he went about it. He made monumental contribution to the quality of legal education in India. The author gives valuable advice to those taking up legal profession. He makes a conscious effort to distill the lessons from his experience at all levels and explains them very nicely in the book. Above all, the book is eminently readable with many, many fascinating anecdotes. I must compliment Orient Black Swan, in particular Dr. Nandini Rao, for publishing the remarkable book. Actually, they have published 3 of my books, and I can say it's the best publisher I had in my life. The bottom line is, buy or borrow, but do read the book. That lot of fun and education. Rajanna, I am grateful to you for the love and affection that you have bestowed upon me, and more important, for giving me the honor of participating in the current event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your succinct remarks. As the only resident grandchild, she has the opportunity to physically bond and hug with the author regularly. A final year undergraduate student in mass communications and literature, an assistant choreographer for a bilingual musical film, and a Kuchipudi performer, I present Shloka Reddy, who will now recount the author has to say about his association with Justice P.S. Narasimha.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am so happy to be speaking about Narasimha Uncle today, who is, of course, Justice Narasimha to everybody else. I'm taking the liberty to call him uncle because he's always been so close to me and my brother Abhinav and has always shown so much affection on us. I still remember going to Delhi when I was like 6 years old when Tataya used to live there, and Narasimha uncle would take us to the park and play with us, and since then he's only gotten closer. I will now be saying a few words about Narasimha uncle on behalf of my grandfather, the author. At page 167, Narasimha was more like family with whom I could open up my heart and seek advice. More significantly, the author says at page 175, I was indeed fortunate to have a junior who was a true well-wisher and was with me when I forayed into practice in the Supreme Court, and was also with me to bid an affectionate farewell when I was to leave Delhi for Hyderabad. I still remember how Tataya was beaming when Narasimha uncle got elevated as Supreme Court judge. He was so happy. He was so happy when Narasimha uncle flew all the way from Delhi just to take blessings from Tataya. Narasimha uncle, you're one of the most humble and nicest people I've ever met, and you're such an inspiration to me and my brother Abhinav, and I'm sure the entire younger generation as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Justice Narasimha.
Mr. KTS Tulsi, former Additional Solicitor General and the Dean of Criminal Bar of the Supreme Court, Sri Nagarjun Reddy, my dear friend, Sri VR Reddy Garu, who every one of you know very well, Vikram Banerjee, my dear friend, and Sri Vijay Kumar Garu and Nandini. Pranam to all elders and best wishes to friends. I will be Kulptanga untanu. I'll speak a little bit in Telugu also. I am sure most of you know Telugu, and I will translate it to Mr. KTS Tulsi and Mr. Banerjee a little later. I can't be formal on an occasion like this, and I will also not be speaking about the book and what Mr. VR Reddy has written in the book. I will be sharing my experiences with Mr. VR Reddy, and I want to share with you more particularly what I have learned from him. And these won't be, for many of you, extraordinary features, or perhaps you would say that these are not the highlights that he has mentioned in the book. But these are facets which actually changed my life and touched me. When I entered the law college, it was in 1985 when I met him in the India International Center, when my father asked him to see me to just confirm whether I got a seat in the law college or not. My first meeting with him, the way he received me, the way he talked to me, where I could not even formulate properly one simple sentence in English. He sat with me for about half an hour, spoke to me, and as I left India International Center, I thought, this is how a person should be, and I should emulate him. That is the first feeling that I had so far as my interaction is done. The courtesy and the confidence that he gave me in the first very meeting made me feel that I should continue to have my association with him, which I did. Few years later, I got enrolled. I shifted to Supreme Court. He also decided to shift to Supreme Court. And both of us had our practices. And one of those initial days when we were both of us walking towards the court, we had a matter early in the morning. As we were walking, a youngster who nobody knew, and he was a lawyer who had just got enrolled. As we were walking fast, he just wished him, "Good morning, sir." So I walked ahead, But then I saw him stopping by, went back, met him, shook hands, asked him what his name is, and then joined me back. So I asked him, do you know him? He said, no, I don't know him. Then what? We have to rush to the court. I thought, is he running for elections or is something wrong? It didn't take much time for me to realize that it was actually I was wrong. You know, that's the character. That's the greatest character that he carries. Whoever it may be, somebody wishes you, you stop by, ask him how he is, shake hands, check his welfare, and walk back. So this is a very small lesson. You know, as they say, character is not a small thing, but it comprises of lots of small things. These small things, one after another, adds up to build the character of a person. I picked up this very important trait. And there was another day when we met an youngster and he had asked me, what's his name? I said, I don't know, as usual. I said, how can you guys not know the name? This is the second lesson I learned. That's so true. And that's the identity of a person. The whole world, if we are talking about constitution, if we are talking about interpretation of the constitution, we all talk of one most important aspect of it, which is dignity, and before that, what's called as identity. We all crave for it. We all fight for it. All litigation is so much about it. Fundamental rights are about it. But in its practice at the lowest level requires that kind of an attitude and recognition. That is what I have again learned from him. These are aspects which you need to yad yacharadi shreshtaha. Who is a shreshta? Shreshta, if he follows something, everybody looks at that and follows him. Yad yacharadi shreshtaha tattadeve taro janaha. This is only one aspect of it. There is another thing which I wanted to share with you. There was a time when his practice was fully grown. He was one of the busy lawyers here in the Supreme Court. Then there was a call, should he participate in the elections in the Bar Council, contest in the Bar Council. That would take time. And after Bar Council, he started the Bar Council of India Trust, and the trust required, they had come up with this idea of starting a national law school. That is the time when, that's the kind of a time everybody faces. You know, you have to make choices. Am I to continue with my profession with full vigor, spend all my time on the profession and become a successful man? Or is it possible for me to give some time to rectify the Bar Council, to contribute something more, establish a law college, which will take enormous time? We all face that situation. That choice that he has made is that profession is all right, but then there is also a need for me to spend some more time towards the profession. That is extremely important. And that choice that he made him slightly unavailable in Hyderabad to some difficulty, but then the decision which he has made led to, as Mr. Y.V. Reddy has just now told you, to the establishment of one of the greatest educational institutions in the country, the National Law School of India. And that led and triggered establishment of many more law colleges in the country. And that's, again, why did he do that? Why did he think that it's necessary to also spend some more time, not merely in building up the profession? Kuntalabhamu kuntamanukani, suntalabhamu kuntamanukani, which means reduce a little bit from out of your self-interest. And you can see how it has actually led to the contribution. The third thing which I wanted to say, we don't have much time because there are many more speakers. Another thing is the balance that he had shown in his life. Yet another aspect which I have picked up from him. He would balance his time with his friends, with sports. He would go for golf, the professional work, the family. You have seen the grandchildren speaking. Manikyalu, one would call them, because everybody has been successful. Deepika, Shyam, Siddharth, Aditi, everybody has come up so very well, and he had a great contribution to the bringing up of each of the child. That's another aspect of it. He did not leave the profession. Everybody calls it a jealous wife, but then how does it apply to him? He has spent all the time with the family. These are the aspects of it. There are many more which one would share. That at the end of the book, that's the beautiful passage that I have seen. He ends it up, which I really, really liked it, and that's the reason why I think I have accepted judgeship also, incidentally. He says, I'll end with this. Before the appendix starts, I had just read it as I was coming in. He says about India, and he says that I love my country, great India. Anyway, that's it. By the end of the book, all that he has to say is, I love my country and I wish everybody good so Indians are concerned. That's again a beautiful thing. By the end of it, if he's thinking that this is a great country and I want to be born again, what would the country be thinking about him? I think persons like him should be called the Sajjanaha, that is, good person. Ravichandro Ghana Vrukshaha, I will end with this. Ravichandro Ghana Vrukshaha Nadi Gayascha Sajjanaha. The warmth giving sun, nectar giving moon, shade giving tree, and rain bearing cloud, and life bearing river, and Sajjanaha are brought on to the earth for the purpose of doing Paropakaraha. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he's been very close to our family for a long time. When I first met Mr. K.T.S. Tulsi at his home on Purana Kila Road, Delhi, I was taken in by his and Mrs. Tulsi's warm hospitality when they hosted a dinner for us. I also distinctly remember him taking time away from his hectic schedule when he was on a professional visit to Hyderabad to come and bless my kids. As colleague law officers for many years, Mr. Tulsi and the author were very closely associated. A senior advocate, his contribution to legal services is well documented. His yearning for public service has seen him get elected as a member of Parliament Rajya Sabha. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tulsi.
Raja and Radha, I have, and all the honorable judges, distinguished educationists, and ladies and gentlemen, I believe that Raja is an excellent and a perfect gentleman. And I have, when I got the book, I said that my junior gave this to me and said that, oh, you have to speak. And after the conferences, I sat down to read the book. And I continued to read it, not knowing what time it is. The coffee, which I normally take after the conferences, I didn't know that it was there. The coffee was replaced, then third time it was replaced, fourth time, but I could not leave this book. It's unputdownable. And to call it call it mundane is not right. It's exciting. It's inspiring. It gives you into the peep the values which matter in life. All that. And I also want to congratulate Raja that he was able to fulfill his dream. His dream project was to revolutionize legal education. And during your lifetime, you can now see the effect of its. We have more than a dozen, perhaps, national law schools, universities. They have completely altered the quality of education and the quality of students who are joining these institutions is much higher. During our time, we used to, if you didn't get admission in any other course, then you would go to law. Today, it's become most attractive. People want to go to law. And there is now an entrance exam on all India basis. You have really, truly fulfilled your dream. And I want to say that I haven't. I haven't been able to change the way criminal justice functions. Criminal justice, it is said, is in the ICU. I've been working on changes for the last 30 years. It hasn't made a difference. The crime situation in the country is that crime rate is higher in India than in Australia, Canada, Pakistan, or Russia. These were the next high crime rate countries. The pendency refuses to get lost. The pendency in the Supreme Court today is 60,000 cases, High Courts 41 lakh cases, and the lower courts 3.1 crore of cases. Our jail population the capacity is 4 lakh, and the number of persons in the prisons is 4,78,000. But most shocking of this is that 68% of the prison population are under trials. It hasn't been decided whether they are guilty or innocent. There is no finality to it. And they complete their sentence. I have, therefore, going to only say this, that you succeeded. I hope even now that before the end of life, we'll be able to succeed. Wish you a long life and much more service for the cause of legal education. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind and thoughtful words. More than just being associated with the offices of the author, for many years, Justice C.V. Nagarjuna Reddy and his family have been very close to the author's family. Justice Reddy's illustrious legal career has seen him elevated as a High Court judge, and his astute judgments are a matter of public record. He is currently the chairperson of the Andhra Pradesh Electricity Regulatory Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, Justice Nagarjuna Reddy.
The dignitaries on and off the dais, the esteemed invitees and guests, Radha Aunty and all the family members. To be frank, I am overwhelmed by trepidation on the one side and elation on the other side. Trepidation because I need to speak before my senior, which I never did. And elation because this is a momentous occasion, being eagerly waited for a long time, and I have been conferred with the privilege of being one of the speakers. As my friend Narasimha did, I would like to talk more about the author than about the book. If I am to speak about my senior, I cannot refrain from using certain words: meticulous, methodical, fair, kind, and gentle. He is so meticulous that nothing happens in his life by chance. Everything happens by choice. From the mundane things, such as menu for his breakfast, to major things, all happens by his choice, not by chance. Just I would like to recount my own experience as to how he chooses things and persons. After completing 5 years of standing, I was badly in need of a good office, and through one of the outgoing juniors, I was indirectly introduced to him. It took 2 months for me to get his appointment, and almost a dozen phone calls from public booth, those days in 1985. Finally, he agreed to meet me. Then I met him. After half an hour interaction, he finally agreed to take me into his office with one condition. He said, "Mind you, I need a junior who should tell me what I should do, not the other way around." Then, of course, after 2 years, he gave me certification that I could live up to his expectations, which is almost like a Nobel Prize for me. And he went a step further. One day he was going through the draft, the pleadings, in a case in which I requested him to appear the next day. Then after going through the pleadings for some time, he just seriously looked at me and asked, "Who drafted this?" I thought there is some blunder I have committed. Then I said, "Sir, I have drafted." "Oh, I am not able to distinguish between your drafting and my drafting." And he is gracious in referring that in his book. And I don't think a junior requires a better commendation than this. This is what Mr. VR Reddy is all about. And so methodical in preparation of his cases. I was deeply enriched by the kind of investigation he made, because he was never accepting any all and sundry briefs. He was accepting only dealing with complicated cases, especially arbitrations involving engineering skills, technicalities, and then electricity. Of course, he was the standing counsel for electricity board, and then medical negligence cases, mostly from Apollo hospitals. We spent hours and hours, days on end, in understanding the technical nuances. He never had any superficial approach. He always used to go deep into the matter, know what the crux is all about in cases. And then his presentation in the court was immaculate. Young advocates used to throng to his court to just watch him performing, arguing the cases. It was just a pleasure to watch him. And I had the privilege of sitting by his side for at least 7 years. Wherever I requested him to come and argue, otherwise in all other cases, of course, I used to carry his flag in the court, High Court. He is such a fair counsel that his opponents always prefer to have him. A very high-stake AP electricity board case was being argued, and I was appearing for my senior in that case. My opponent was none other than a very celebrated lawyer, late Ananta Babu, Mr. Ananta Babu. He was going hammer and tongs, and then I was equally opposing tooth and nail. Not knowing what to do, Mr. Ananta Babu interrupts me and says, "My lord, let Mr. VR Reddy come. He is a fair counsel." So this was the kind of confidence that even his opponents used to have in him, in his fairness. And beneath his very reserved and dignified looks, there lies a very kind and compassionate heart. Of course, unless people go closer to him, they will not be able to realize the kind of kindness and warmth he has in his heart. I am the beneficiary of such kindness and compassion. And he always used to say that my juniors, I want my juniors to be at least a few notches above me. Such is the compassion he used to show towards his juniors. And of course, God answered his wish by making Narasimha a direct Supreme Court judge, which is a rare achievement. And he is so gentle. He is so gentle that in my 36 years of my association with him, I never heard him utter an abusive word. Though coming from my own native district, mind you, Kadapa. And perhaps the gravest abusive word he used was Vedhava. Vedhava and nothing more, I tell you. I never heard any other abusive word. So this is the kind of gentleman he is. And of course, any topic on senior would not be conclusive unless I refer to one person who is pivotal to his life. You must have already guessed Radha Aunty. She is the main pillar of support to him. Of course, with Deepa, Sham, Siddharth, and Aditi being supporting pillars. They make a very happy family. And I am so privileged and proud that I am associated for 36 long years with this great man and his family. Before concluding, of course, to say a few words about the book, anyone who goes through the book would not get the feeling that this is the debut performance of, or debut attempt of my senior. The narration is so natural, shorn of any embellishments, any hyperboles, any exaggerations. The book flows just like a river. And the rich experience he has shared in the book I am sure will be a beacon light for the generations to come. I thank my senior and his family for giving me this great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your demonstrative words. Many of the speakers have talked about the immense contribution of Mr. Reddy for the setting up of the National Law School in Bangalore. I distinctly remember I just got married, and I think they opened up in '88. So 86 to 88, he was constantly traveling, constantly at getting this task done. One such person who shared a kind of a unique bond with Mr. Reddy is Professor Vijay Kumar. They bonded as pioneers with a vision, and along with a team of accomplished academicians and legal professionals, they persevered. They persevered really hard and established the first National Law School in Bangalore. The establishment of this great institution saw a paradigm shift in legal education in India, with a 5-year law course, a professional law course, becoming the de rigueur, which pretty much now is the legal education standard in India. There are more than 20 institutions following the same model. As Vice Chancellor of the National Law Institute University in Bhopal, Professor Vijay Kumar is continually contributing to the improvement of legal education. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Vijay Kumar.
Mr. and Mrs. Radha Reddy, Justice Jagannath Rao, Dr. Y.V. Reddy, Mr. Justice P.S. Narasimha, Mr. K.T.S. Tulsi and Mrs. Tulsi, Justice C.V. Nagarjun Reddy, my beloved Vikramjit Banerjee, the Additional Solicitor General of India, Dr. Nandini Rao, Justice Vishwanath Shetty, the Lok Ayukta of Karnataka, Madam Shetty, and their son Sashikaran Shetty, my learned colleague Dr. Vivekanandan, the Vice Chancellor of Himachal Pradesh National Law University, invitees, ladies and gentlemen, a good evening to everyone present here. I got to know about Mr. Reddy from 30th January 1988, and I had to appear before the team of selectors to choose the founding faculty members of the National Law School. They selected about 12 or 13 teachers, out of which 8 of us joined together, and popularly we were called as the 8 Musketeers. When I went through this book, I got to know that so many people come to law school after its success. Everyone was recollecting that they were the architect of this National Law School. But I think this book brings many facts to the fore. One example which I would like to give is, it is given on page number 112, a letter sent by the registrar of the National Law School at that particular point of time, requesting the Bar Council to nominate Mr. VR Reddy to the Executive Council, which stands as an example for the love and affection the faculty and the students showed to Mr. Reddy, and vice versa. The number of trips that he made, it was not out of any public fund. It was his own fund. Many people come for the Executive Council meetings for the National Law School, the convocations, so on and so forth. At the fag end, they would all take that claim form, fill it up and take it. Mr. VR Reddy also would take it and return the entire proceeds back to the National Law School. A distinct feature which we will never forget in the law school, because we were wanting that money at that particular point of time, because there were no donors. were still in the process of making the inroads into legal education. And therefore, when I looked at all the paragraphs that he had written, all the pages that he had written, I would not hesitate to call him as the chief architect of the National Law School experiment. I was able to speak a little bit of Telugu with him, and that brought me closer to him. That bias is always there. And he also took some of the students, bright students, as his junior. And he was really a marvelous person with whom everyone would love to enjoy the day with him. Sir, after the success of the National Law School, today the National Law School is the only national law school out of 23 law schools in the country which finds a mention in the band of 151 to 200 of the QS World Subject Ranking. And I think that credit should also come to you. I always regret the absence of people like Mr. VR Reddy to support the other national law schools. As Vice Chancellor, we know how difficult it is to move the mountains to get some funding or meet people and do something. But I think his contribution to the NLS is something which we cannot measure. And because of that, I can with pride tell, though I have left the university to be in Bhopal now, many of the alumni of NLS, they are serving in various UN agencies like UNDP, UNEP, World Bank, IMF, ICC, so on and so forth. Working in many international NGOs, law firms, they have become partners in law firms in the US and other places. And I think it will be very satisfying for Mr. Reddy to see that the products of the NLS are doing exceedingly well and contributing to legal education. Sir, I also would like to request you to continue to do this because there is every need to refresh the status of legal education in this country. The third stage or fourth stage, in whatever form we call, with the national education policy saying that it will not apply to legal education. So this is the time that the judges, the bar and the academia should sit together and learn from you and take legal education forward. With these few words, I am deeply privileged, and on behalf of the entire NLS family, which includes the former members of the staff, academic staff, the students present in the past, and on my own behalf, wish Mr. VR Reddy a very healthy and long life to witness and contribute and continue to contribute to legal education in general and NLSIU in particular. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your thoughtful address. So now the last of the grandchildren of the author, a reticent yet athletic young man, a junior at Haverford College, majoring in economics, varsity tennis player, and an ITA scholar athlete, and his favorite title of being my twin brother, Abhinav will now say a few words about the author as a sports enthusiast.
So unqualified standing here in front of all these distinguished people and then just butting in to talk, but I'm going to give like a quick talk on my experience with my grandfather and how he's influenced me in a huge way. Sorry, I'm a little too tall. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, a reader of the book will not fail to notice that the enthusiasm of the author, my grandfather, in promoting sports. Sports is a huge part of my life, and as far as I can remember, my first ever memory of watching a game of sport was with my grandfather, and since then he's continued to influence me on and off the court in a lot of ways. He used to come and watch me play tennis as a kid a lot. He used to come watch me play tournaments, and you know, he just used to give me constant encouragement throughout the whole process. And yeah, he'd support me through my losses, and he'd also celebrate my wins, so he was just really helpful for me growing up and playing tennis. I still remember to this day, I vividly remember this. So when I first told him that I was elected as the sports captain of my school, he was ecstatic and so happy about it. And today I'm going to like to take the liberty to, you know, thank him and tell him that he played a huge role in me achieving that goal. And last summer, Tate actually wanted me to pick up golf, and you know how persistent he is. So he'd constantly contact a coach and kind of set up lessons for me. So with that, I hope I can, you know, hit the green with him soon and play golf. And yeah, I just would like to thank my grandfather, thank Tate for everything that he's done for me. And I think from now on, I'm going to call him my honorary coach and really thank him for everything that he's done for me.
Thank you for that, Abhinav. I think you've spent too much time in the US. Your American accent is getting really thick.
Mr. Vikramjit Banerjee has the unique credit of being the first graduate of the National Law School of Bangalore to adorn the office of the Additional Solicitor General of India. In his early days as an advocate, this young and dynamic lawyer has been associated with the author when he was in Delhi. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Vikramjit Banerjee.
It's a great honor for me to be at least given this opportunity to speak. So I'll just keep it very short. I know it's been long and you've been hearing a lot from other people, but there are two things why I think this book is incredible, because it's a testimony of the times, and it's also a book from which you can make, you can mine the history of the formation of the National Law School, which is so much discussed today. There are two things which I again think that it's extremely important is number one, and this is what I take from the book itself, is how to be, and which I always found reflected in him, which I try to reflect in my life, is how to be a completely rounded individual and a lawyer, and how to go about focusedly thinking of change and achieving that. There are two times when I've seen him doing that. Once when I was assisting him in Bhopal matters in court, in Supreme Court, and two is for the National Law School. I did not know, I knew that he had a great contribution, but when I handled the matter as to about the National Law School a year back in the Bangalore High Court, I saw that literally every document of the National Law School, every important document, bore his signature. Whatever I am, as a lawyer, as a person, is being in his chamber for those extremely formative years when he gave me the opportunity to work for him. And so it's a great honor to be here, and it's a privilege to be here. And I think the book is in many ways both a reflection of his times and a mine of history which we can all read to know what happened, of various incidents which we've always wondered what about. With that, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
The families have known each other for 2 generations. The deep-rooted association between the author and Mr. Rameshwar Rao has been both professional and personal. It is with nostalgia that the professional association with the publishing house of Orient Black Swan was rekindled for the publication of the author's memoir. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Nandini Rao.
Good evening to all of you, esteemed chief guest, Justice Jagannatha Rao, Shri VR Reddy, and all our distinguished guests of honor gathered here, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a rare pleasure, a privilege, and honor to have all of you here today on this very, very special occasion. It was really wonderful to hear each of you speak and share your thoughts. Thank you so much. It was also heartwarming to see the overwhelming love and respect that Shri VR Reddy inspires amongst his professional peers and his family. The launch of his book today is a very special and proud moment for us at Orient Black Swan, and I must thank Shri Reddy for giving us this wonderful opportunity. Mundane and More from Memory is an unusual memoir as much as it is deeply inspiring. It narrates in a simple, engaging, anecdotal style marked by an endearing humility and a gently wry humor, the extraordinary story of how a boy from Sitarampuram, a small village in Kadapa district of Andhra Pradesh, rose by dint of sheer hard work, dedication, and exceptional brilliance to the highest echelons of the hallowed Indian judiciary, going on to become the Additional Solicitor General of India. Of course, there is much more here besides, but for that, you must read it. On a personal note, receiving the privilege to publish this book has also been serendipitous in that it renews and strengthens an old and cherished association which goes back a long way. Among the many friendships forged along an illustrious career path with peoples from all walks of life, Sri Reddy has been very kind to mention my father, Rameshwar Rao. Sri Reddy writes about how Rameshwar Rao visited his office regularly, and does him the honor of speaking of him in his book. He mentions him as a person of high intellect and as the director and chairman of Orient Longman, now Orient Black Swan, and as a member of parliament. And he says, over a period, I quote, over a period, our association deepened, and Rameshwar used to discuss many of his political and private matters to seek my opinion. I cherish fond memories of my association with him. Thank you very much for your gracious words, Sri Reddy. I am aware that my father too had the greatest regard for you. He would have been truly happy that your book has been published by Orient Black Swan. And as an aside, you must know that my editors have told me they enjoyed reading and working on your book as much as you did writing it. I wish the book all success, and I do believe it will appeal to a wide readership, much beyond the courts. Thank you very much.
His illustrious career in the legal profession has seen this evening's chief guest as the Chief Justice of the Kerala and Delhi High Courts, Judge, Supreme Court of India, and head of the India Law Commission. The warm and affectionate association between the author and Justice Jagannath Rao traces back many years. I now request the Chief Guest, Justice Jagannath Rao Garu, to deliver his keynote address.
Mr. VR Reddy, respected Sri YV Reddy Garu, Justice Narasimha, Justice Nagarjuna Reddy Garu, Mr. K.T.S. Tulsi, Sri Vijay Kumar, Sri Vikram Banerjee, and the publisher, Mr. Nandini Rao. I have perused the autobiography closely and wish to place some important events in the life of Mr. VR Reddy before you. I and Mr. VR Reddy have been friends from the last 70 years, from 1950, when we were in Madras. We were living in the same street. Mr. VR Reddy was staying in the house of Ms. Y.V. Reddy's father in Lakshmipuram in Madras. We had I and my brother Krishna Mohan. Then we have a friend Sadasiva Reddy, advocate, who is present here, and one Satyarazu, who is IAS officer, who could not come today. We were all cold friends. It was a beautiful locality. One day, at the instance of the Chief Justice Yogeshwar Dayal of AP High Court, I was requested to call Mr. VR Reddy to tell him that the Chief Justice wants to meet him. He went and met the Chief Justice. He offered him judgeship the AP High Court, but after consideration for some time, he declined the request and was satisfied to continue a lawyer because God had planned so many other things for him. Now, the best part of his career is that he is elected to the Bar Council of Andhra Pradesh, then is elected to the Bar Council of India, then became the managing trustee of the Bar Council of India. His contribution to the legal education of this country is unmatched. That is the highlight of his career. Today there are 25 national law universities in this country, and the students are so well equipped. The National Law School of Bangalore is called the Harvard of the East. That is the reputation to which Mr. VR contributed to this country. It has produced 25 Rhodes Scholars of Oxford. Only National Law School Bangalore has produced 25 Rhodes Scholars. This is the story narrated by Mr. VR, how national law schools became part of the legal education of India on the same lines of Indian Institute of Technology and IIMs in this country. The whole credit of establishing the highest standards of legal education goes to Mr. Mr. VR Reddy, and I congratulate him for elevating the legal education of this country to the highest pedestal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your meaningful address. I would now like to share a short anecdote on behalf of Bindu Auntie, Mrs. Bindu Bhatta, who was a part of the first batch of NLSUI. So, Bindu Auntie happened to meet my mom a couple of years ago in my school, Chirek, and my mom introduced herself as VR Reddy's daughter. Bindu Auntie went on to say that when they were studying, her and her fellow batchmates would wait for Tataya to come because he was always so well dressed and, I quote, very good looking. And he always knew everyone's names. He would go to the hospital when they were sick, and he would also know who had boyfriends and who did not have boyfriends. So, Tataya, I would just like to say that you're still very good looking. Okay, now. An accomplished Kuchipudi exponent, choreographer, guru, Presidential Sangeet Natak Academy awardee, and the apple of the author's eyes, and my mom, Ms. Deepika Reddy, will now present the concluding remarks.
I'm truly overwhelmed and at a loss of words to express my deep sense of gratitude to all the legal luminaries, to the eminent dignitaries, esteemed guests, family and friends for being here this evening. Today is indeed a joyous moment for our family, and your presence makes it very special. We are touched by the affection that all of you have showered on us. Today's event marks the culmination of the stupendous task my father took up to write his memoirs. And I have seen him sitting on his desk and religiously penning his life story. I asked him, Dad, how are you getting the energy and how are you able to concentrate? And he said, this is a gift that he's giving to his progeny, to know about the family they were born into. So I don't know, I wanted to say many things, but it's already running late. So I want to say on behalf of my brother and I, Siddharth and I, are so proud to be born to him. And his wit, wisdom, and his experiences are a huge takeaway, not only for the family, but for all his wonderful juniors and the next generation of lawyers. My father is just telling me not to talk. He's been telling me I don't want you to speak, but then I'm pushing myself and just 2 minutes, Dad, I'm done. So, because there's so much to say, but the main thing is I was very, very unhappy and literally fought with him. I was very uncomfortable that he put my pictures and wrote about my dance career in his book. But after seeing how the book has unfolded, I feel so blessed, touched, and humbled. He remembers more than what I do, and God bless him with good health. That's all I can pray as his daughter. And I would like to thank Orient Black Swan for their unstinted support, Nandini, Pradeep, Krishnadeva Rao, Uday, Lilanjana, and the whole team. And last but not the least, all of you for being here. As they say in Telugu, Peru Peruna mi andariki nenu sirasu vanchi na namassumanjalalu samarpistunnanu. Sarve jana sukhino bhavantu. Please head out for dinner. Thank you so much for being here and making this day very, very memorable that we will cherish all our lives. Thank you so much. Please do join us for dinner. It will mean a lot to us. Dinner is outdoor to make it safer.